NIO with 20,176 vehicles delivered in August of 2024. Congratulations to NIO. I'll tell you why I'm happy about this. I was wondering if we would see a drop off on deliveries or demand for the NIO brand with Onvo, their first sub-brand, coming into the mix, starting with deliveries in September. So my thought was, what will delivery numbers look like for NIO for their premium brand in July and August? Both months very strong. NIO with over 20,000 deliveries, I believe, for the last 4 months consecutively. This is a nice new trend. And I think the exposure and the additional brand recognition that will come from their first sub-brand, Onvo, and this is the L60 is the first model that NIO will be selling with Onvo. I think this is only going to help both Onvo and NIO's exposure. But again, the deliveries will start in the month of September for this vehicle, for the L60, for Onvo. And here's what I think is fun and exciting. It's not just that, sorry, I'll jump back here so you can see over 100 stores, or at least 100. I've heard 105, but it might be more, at least 100 stores celebrating the grand opening. That was on September 1st. But here's my thought. And the thing I'm most excited about is NIO and Onvo, they still haven't announced the battery as a service pricing, which means there's going to be even a lower price option for users or consumers that they don't know about yet. When that gets announced, I think that will take things up even another level with the interest, the excitement, the demand. So with that all in mind, I want to pivot just a bit. I dropped a video over the weekend, niostock. We had updated FTD data, that's fails to deliver data, and I shared just about a 2-minute video on that because it wasn't being reported on Fintel. So I wanted to let people know about it. Anyway, this is from the comment section because I want to go a little in depth on this. And this is a good comment. So here we go. Sharpshot said, I'm starting to think maybe EVs are not the future. And then it goes on to talk about hybrids and the interest in these EREVs or hybrids in the Chinese market, I think is what he's referencing here. And so my response is this. I said, I think this could be broken down into regions. I'm talking globally, along with categories for the vehicles. So in China, for example, premium battery electric vehicle sales, NIO is number 1. And I'm thinking in terms of the $40,000, this is US dollar price range and above. And here's a simple but kind of powerful example of that. NIO has 8 models that they offer through their premium NIO brand. You've got the ES6, the EC6, the ET5 Touring, the ET5, the ET7, the ES7, the ES8, and the EC7. And you'll note every one of the 8 models they sell is ranking. And now with about 4 months consecutive delivery numbers in that 20,000 and above range, it looks like NIO is set to increase or improve those numbers in the sales. But that's just in the premium segment or sub-segmented piece of the market, the BEV side. The German brands with ICE or gas vehicles, they're still dominating the premium sub-segmented piece of the market because in the future in China, all sales will be new energy vehicles. But for now, I think it's at least 80% going to the German brands in particular with their ICE or gas sales. So there is still a big piece of that premium market to go over to someone in the future. Now enter Onvo, the first sub-brand for NIO, and Firefly, the upcoming, even more affordable sub-brand they'll be offering. This means battery swappable options, which to me, and I'm thinking in terms of from 2025 and on, that could take a lot of the EREV, that's extended range EV or hybrid type of vehicle sales that have done well in the lower price ranges. There is definitely some level of comfort for many consumers in China to go with the hybrid, but those haven't had to compete with battery swappable vehicles. NIO, and then in the future with NIO and their partners introducing battery swappable vehicles across all price ranges, this is what I'll be watching from 2025 and beyond in the Chinese market. And I think with the Chinese market, we see Asia kind of move along with them, but also followed maybe closely by the European market and the Middle East. Now, sadly, I'm in the US, and I have to say this is just what I see, and I'm thinking the Americas might be last in realizing EVs are competitive and offer some longer term value propositions for consumers, especially with the battery swappable capabilities, which reduce upfront costs to consumers. They mean less headaches from a charging and maintenance standpoint. And of course, the vehicle shells will retain more value as they won't depreciate so fast when the battery dies. And this is not a shot at Tesla, but it is an observation about Tesla. In fact, someone shared with me a Tesla that I think it was going for about $3,500 because the battery was dead. There was just really no value in it anymore. And I believe the average is about 9 years expected. So the problem is if you're paying whatever price and you don't have a swappable battery in your EV, then your value essentially goes to nothing whenever the battery dies, excuse me. So that's a problem long term. But that's also why I think more consumers in China are attracted to it and moving in the direction of the EREVs or the hybrids right now. I do think NIO, with its battery swappable models and its partners who will be bringing in more battery swappable models, I think that could make a big shift in waves in that market as early as 2025. So that's one thing I'll be watching. This also from the comment section. This is from NealRyan, says, thanks for the info. I just don't understand how this is allowed. And he's talking about what looks like manipulation in the US market with the share or stock price of NIO with the FTDs and that sort of thing. My response is kind of simple. The SEC regulates the US markets. The CSRC regulates the Chinese markets. The CSRC has hit companies like Citadel, who I've called the suspicious short in NIO, with huge fines in the past and kicked them out and didn't allow them to trade in their markets for about 5 years due to what they said was malicious. Did I say that right? Malicious short selling. Meanwhile, the SEC has fined Citadel very small amounts compared to the amount of money Citadel has been making in the US markets. The FTD data that I share is the US market, and that is regulated by the SEC. Now, here's what I'm watching. Monday, we have a holiday in the US, and that means the Hong Kong market and the Singapore markets will operate, but the US market will not. And I wonder if we will see more accurate price action shared because the US markets are shut down. And in part because if there's manipulation going on, especially heavy manipulation in the US markets, it won't be allowed to go on when the markets are closed. So this is, and shout out NIO Switzerland for sharing this. This is from when they had, and this is actually the response from Nick. I want to highlight both these things. The highest trade volume today since Hong Kong IPO. I'll share this tweet, the response as well. But this is one of the things I'll be watching because that was even before we head into this holiday weekend. I am so curious what happens, especially with shorts who already may be getting set up to get torched. I don't know. I'm not trying to call a short squeeze. However, we have seen some similarities, some things kind of setting up nicely for NIO. Either way, this is a long-term play for me, but the trade volume has been trending up. And with the elevated spiking FTDs of late, I just can't help but wonder what's going to happen. So I'll be paying attention to whatever goes on in the Hong Kong and Singapore markets over this long holiday weekend here in the US. And maybe it'll give us a little more accurate price discovery than what we would otherwise see if the US markets, let's say, open and then NIO stock gets suppressed or pushed around or down, or, you know, if they're predatory short sellers who are involved in messing with that stock price. I don't know, but I want to hear from others. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. I'll see y'all again very soon.